Perfect. Alright. Hello everyone. I am ibaallday. We're going to be running Kingdom Hearts 2 FM, which is Final Mix. The category is going to be beginner at 80%. Basically, what that means is we're going to be beating the game with bare minimum requirements. So there's going to be a few worlds that we won't be visiting, along with second visits that are done. There's a few particular worlds that we don't have to revisit again, as they're not required to meet the minimum threshold to beat the game. Oh. Yep. Perfect. Alright. Been running this game for quite some time now. This was kind of the first game that got me fully into speedrunning. And yeah, without further ado, we'll get it fired up here. And here we go in 3, 2, 1. And so, a lot of cutscenes, we can skip right away for the most part. There's a few cutscenes where we kind of have to wait a moment, and kind of certain ones that have certain audio cues that we have to hear before we can actually skip them. But for the most part, we're able to immediately skip through the vast majority of the cutscenes within this game. So at the very start here, we're picking up the offensive struggle bat, which gives us a +1 to our strength. That is very valuable in any category, as strength is a big deal as far as a lot of the strats go in early game through mid game. There's going to be a lot of level thresholds too that we have to also hit, as we want to be at certain levels for strength boost, certain levels for abilities, and also, of course, the most important thing is the strength boost. So right away, right there, we're setting up our RNG. This is the only RNG that we're going to be able to set up on ourselves. So by doing the opening that we did there, we're able to set up this dusk to be manipulated the way that we want to. And so since we don't have a Keyblade, everything that we do here is just air hits. And we're just doing that a number of times until it gets to the cutscene. And then for this here, we're going to do 2 hits and then a full air combo. And throughout most of this game, we are going to be utilizing air combos as much as possible, as they are a lot faster overall versus just doing ground combos. Because the moment we land on the ground, we're able to jump again into another air combo. So we're going to be doing a lot of air combos, especially in early game. And we got to go through a little quick mini game here. Mail delivery. There's a number of ways to go about this, but I just stick to the basic route here of just going to each person. Pressing triangle, which is the RC, which RC is going to be kind of the common theme with a lot of fights, as they are the main trigger of certain attacks and also certain special attacks as well that we'll see later on. In a casual playthrough, Hainer there would ask for you to get a certain amount of money. Basically, that money threshold's just to give you an extra ability point. We don't have to do that. We just have to do the minigame there one time for completion, and be able to move on. We don't get the ability boost, but we don't really need it. We have a route set up specifically for our AP points. And of course, the manipulation they did there earlier with Setzer sets us up with that dusk there as well. There's a number of patterns that can be done, but when we set up Setzer a certain way, it's usually going to guarantee that we get that pattern every single time. So in the Station Awakening fight here, every dusk is 2 hits and a full air combo. Depending on how the RNG manipulation was set up as well, the dusks in that fight also have a bit of a pattern that you can set up for there. Now pretty much everything after this, RNG is kind of now at our mercy, so we no longer really have any control ourselves over most of that. we're going to turn off summon effects. We're going to be utilizing summons quite a bit within this game. And if we left the summons on for full, every single time that we would summon throughout the game, it would play the whole animation. And there are certain summons that are much longer than others. So we turn those off because we get the luxury of actually turning those off, unlike with 1FM where you have to sit through the cutscene every single time. So we have the last of our actual little tutorial boss here. We're not going to be using potions at all in this run. We don't use potions, we don't use cure, because we don't need them. We do, like, the damage that we take isn't that much, but we also have Donald that can use cure on us if things absolutely get hairy. But basically this is going to walk through the whole RC mechanic, which is called reaction command. And for the most part, that's going to be how this fight's going to go. The Twilight Thorn's going to disappear there, and we're just going to wait. There's no way to speed it up for him coming back up. It's just on a set timer. And once we get him knocked down to the ground here, we're going to do 3 full air combos and wait for him to recover. After which, he's going to do another attack, which we're going to do another full air combo, and then we're going to delay that. So we're going to try and get as many air combos here as we can. And if we're fast enough with our air combos, we can also get in an extra hit, which is very good for later on with the overall attack in this fight. Normally I would back off, but I kind of am in a weird position here. So I just did the RC reversal. Normally we want to try and get both of those creepers if we can, as it's extra XP, which gets us closer to our level up a lot quicker, which gives us our next strength boost. Again, a lot of level thresholds are very valuable, as each strength boost that we do get helps set us up for the strats that we do throughout the run, and also keeps us on track with our damage. So at first, a little fun fight here, which is also the heart of resets on beginner. Oop. So on beginner, we don't have draw, unlike with crit, so we kind of have to manipulate Hainer here into the corner. We're just going to do ground combos and delay it just enough so that we can get the orbs picked up. Unfortunately, Hainer here is kind of being a bit of a butt, but again, that is kind of normal. Like I said, Hainer, especially on beginner, is the bane of the existence for anyone that runs beginner because we don't have draw. Honestly, crit Hainer is much easier to do than beginner Hainer because we get the luxury of having draw. So Vivi here, we're going to open up with a full ground combo, followed by another full ground combo, and we're going to run away. Going to do another full ground combo, do 1, 2, 1, and hold. Oh, Vivi was in a weird spot. That's fine. Make this work somehow. So I'm just going to do one ground hit here without doing a finisher, because at this point Vivi's health is so low that if we were to do a finisher, Vivi would be knocked out, and unfortunately we won't be able to quickly take care of the orbs that we need to gather. But now we're low enough on the orbs here that we can go ahead and just finish it out with knocking him out. Normally, a better fight would be being able to do 1, 2, but I think what happened was I accidentally knocked him away from the corner just enough to where when I go to walk away, he was able to hit me still. Instead of doing finishers here, we're just going to do a bunch of 1, 2s. And the reason for that is we want to keep the dusks under control. We don't want to knock them away because they do take a lot more to take them out. And then we have Axel coming up. We're going to jump off to the side here and do a full air combo. We're going to try and get 3 air combos. Oh, that's unfortunate. Input didn't come out. That's fine. We can recover this. So normally you want to get 3 air combos in there, and on the 3rd air combo, Axel will retaliate automatically, and we just simply walk to the side to avoid it, and we can attack, and then just finish out the fight from there. With Cypher, or Setzer here, this is Setzer, not Cypher. Cypher was the first boss. We're going to lose this fight, potentially. If you win this fight, you would get a Champion's Belt, but the Champion's Belt doesn't do anything other than give you damage resistance for certain elements. We don't need that. We don't even use that in crit as well. We want the medal that you get from this as for losing, because it gives you a strength boost. And again, strength boost is very important for early to mid game. So this is like one of those cutscenes I was mentioning earlier where you kind of have to wait a moment. It doesn't allow you to skip it right away. Now we're off to do the 7 Wonders, which is not so much of a 7 Wonders. Just odd things happening around Twilight down here. We're going to go ahead and equip that medal, and that's it. Because again, the medal gives us a strength boost, which is going to be very valuable for a few fights coming up. Because without that medal boost, it would change just slightly in how some of the strats are done. And we're now off to the 2nd wonder here. It's going to be VV clones here. At the very start here, I'm going to jump to the side and try and get all 3 of these clones. This whole entire encounter is just all about positioning, because we don't have abilities, any abilities really to help us make this much easier to crowd control. And so it's all about positioning within that entire encounter. Better positioning and also a little bit of luck as far as spawns go can go a long way to having a good VV clone sequence. A big thing too, we keep aerial recovery on, because if you try and do this without aerial recovery on, anytime you get knocked by VV, it's automatically 5 seconds pretty much every single time that you get hit by VV. So it's just quicker to have. It's just easier to have the aerial recovery on. And with Shadow Roxas, this is also one of the fights where having the medal on makes a bit of a difference as to whether you have to do just full air combos the entire way, or have to squeeze in an extra hit, because the strength medal there, if you don't have it on, you have to do a little bit of extra work there to get through that fight. And our final, well, not our final 7 Wonders portion, but as far as like having to do anything, is the bag mini game here. You don't want to really mash the triangle through this. You can kind of slightly press triangle, like if you want to get a drink of water or anything in this section. But if you're mashing triangle when it goes to jump over the can, it'll sometimes not come out, or you have the chance of the bag jumping off to the side of the garbage can and it does some weird stuff. And there's also a chance, if you're mashing triangle, that you will get a blue screen and have to restart your run entirely. I've only ever had it happen once. It was while I was trying to get a drink of water and just get myself ready, because I've been at it for a couple hours trying to get a run going, and all of a sudden it blue screen, and I was like, well, that sucks. So early on as well, you see me taking the skateboard throughout Twilight Town, and the reason for that is we don't have any good movement, and we won't have any good solid movement in base form for at least over an hour. So most everything that we're going to be doing is trying to use the skateboard here with Roxas as much as we can. and later on, when we get some forms that we can transform into, we'll be using those for our movement until we get the base form ability for it. So Roxas's summer vacation is quickly coming to a close here, and we're going to get to our main boy, Sora, probably in about the next few minutes. And much with like the fight earlier with the Dusks during the struggle tournament, we're just doing full 1-2s. And with the assassin there, I like to do a 1-2, 1-2 full air combo, just for safety measures. Because if you do enough damage, the assassins will kamikaze and blow up, and so we don't get any of the money or any of the XP from that enemy that would normally drop otherwise. And it's pretty precious XP, especially early on. If you have, because we have 2 more that we're going to be seeing before the end of this section, and if we lose multiple of them, it can hurt pretty badly on XP because they're worth 12 each. So it's fine to lose 1, but if you lose 2 early on, especially on crit, you kind of have to reset just to kind of make sure your XP values are good. And the vast majority of the chests here we're going to be skipping. They're not of any importance to us. On crit, going up that staircase is a potion, but we don't need potions for beginner, so we can just bypass that. On crit, you can pick that chest up if you want, but depending on how you're feeling with crit overall as a runner, you can bypass a few of the potion chests. So we got 2 more encounters coming up before the end of the Roxas section here. So with the Dust here, once again, we're just going to be doing 1-2s until I feel comfortable enough doing a full air combo. Because once we take out 3 Dusks, the assassins will spawn, and we want to try and catch them before they go underground. Unfortunately, this Dusk kind of came over to where I was going to try and catch the assassin. So we're going to try and catch him back above ground. And now at this point, with the metal, we only have to do 1 hit into a full air combo to take him out, or vice versa, depending on how you're feeling with it.
Come here. I'll make it all stop.
So to start with Axel 2 here, we're going to run off to the side. We're going to push square, knock Axel up in the air, and then we're going to do a full ground combo. And then a full air combo. Then we're going to do the reaction command with Axel here. And then we're going to do a full ground combo, knocking him back up in the air, into a full air combo to finish off the fight. And that is the end of the Roxas section. Pretty decent Roxas section for the most part. Anything below 17 is pretty decent, especially for those that are starting out with 2FM. Anything below 17 is very solid. Oops. And so now we're going to go ahead and customize our party members here. We're going to take everything from Donald and everything from Goofy. And then I'm also going to equip Guard. Scan we're going to be equipping on a little bit later, but Guard we need so that way we can guard against some certain enemies here later on. We're going to begin to our first of a few XP grind situations. We're going to have a timed fight coming up. So the fight will end on one of many different instances. The first that we're going to be doing to end this is based on hits. I don't know the exact number. I don't think anyone has actually ever given a number as far as I know within the community, but the second way that this fight can end is if our health drops too low, which on beginner that takes too long, and it's very valuable to get this XP because we want to get to level 6 for the strength boost, which will allow us to do a full air combo on the creepers, which are the little guys that are crawling on the ground. And for the most part through this with the dust, we're going to be doing 1-2s until we get to the creepers. And here we're just going to continue doing 1-2s until we get to level 6, which gives us the strength boost to be able to do a full air combo. Now, if you do end up doing just a single hit on a creeper or get a hit at any point on a different creeper, you can follow up with a full air combo. But I only recommend that if you're paying attention enough, because you don't want to knock them away. Because we want to try and hit level 6 as fast as we can, because then that just means we're able to do full air combos now on the creepers. And the third way, which we won't be hitting as well, is based on time, because we're doing enough hits to the enemies to be able to speed the process up. And for the most part, Donald and Goofy are going to be semi-helpful in certain sections of the early game. Once we get to about the later portion of early game to mid game, Donald and Goofy are pretty much obsolete, other than to be there for their special abilities that we'll be using later on. And so we're going to be picking up that ether chest. We're going to be picking up a few ether chests along the way. Something to note with 2FM is if your item slots are empty when you pick up a chest, that item automatically goes into your inventory. Since I don't have anything in there right now, other than that ether, that's already slotted in, so I don't have to worry about menuing that later on, because we're going to be pretty much rocking ethers at all times. And then just in here, we're going to be doing 1-2s, because our strength boost at level 6 allows us to just do 2 hits to take out the shadows there, instead of having to do a full combo. And if Donald's a good boy enough and actually decides he wants to be helpful, he'll thunder them into oblivion, but most of the time you can't really count on Donald to help out, so just gotta play it as is. See right there, Donald actually helped us. So with these soldiers, we're manipulating them to do their RC here. We do a 1 and a 1-2, which gives us the reaction command called Cyclone. A very good setup is being able to take out 3 of the 4 soldiers with 1 Cyclone. If you're still able to at least get 2, then it's still good enough. And then just for a little bit of extra XP, we'll take out that soldier along the way, plus some movement at the same time. We're going to talk to the fairy godmothers here, and they're going to give us our first of many abilities, or like transformations in this game. So the first form that we got is Valor form. It's a physical based form. We also level that up through just doing hits in general. We cannot use magic in that form, which is the drawback to that form. But that's fine. It's a very strong form early on, and also it's going to be utilized quite a bit for our movement, which we're going to get the first look at it here right now. And then for this first fight here in Hollow Bastion, we're going to attack the first Dusk here straight on and do just an air combo. As soon as the Samurai here spawns in, we want to target him because he's very hard to stagger if he gets a chance to actually start moving. So we want to focus him as soon as possible. And of course, the Donald's good a boy. Again, he'll help us out. But we want to do as much as we can in as far as Valor hits go, because The more hits that we can get within that fight before we get to our next world, the better. Because before one of the encounters, we want to be at level 2 for the form. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a bad time. Picking up a very important drive recovery. This drive recovery pretty much is an emergency for later on if things go south for an encounter. Hopefully we won't need it and use it the way that I actually want to intend on using it. This is also another high reset area the lower your time gets, because Leon is very inconsistent for being helpful. So we have to just hope that he decides to actually be a good boy and help us out. So as soon as we get through that wave, that's unfortunate. Because Leon can screw this fight up with the samurais, unfortunately, and ruin our dual stance that we want to get in order to be able to make this fight really good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and focus this door here, because I won't be able to get the last wave of enemies spawned in until all these creepers are taken out. But we want to use dual stance as much as possible, because it's a very strong reaction command that will wipe everything out in that vicinity. A relatively decent fight is at least without Leon transforming in, which he did unfortunately already, but is him powering up his gun blade there. It was just unfortunate because the 2 dusks that I was trying to blizzard got taken out at the same time, and normally you want to try and leave the last dusk to Leon to try and damage and take out, so he's as far away as possible from the samurais, so that way he can't screw anything up. But again, unfortunately, it was just an unfortunate situation, which just, it happens. Not much we could do, we just do the best that we can there. So now, unlike with PC, 2FM, we have to actually go through the gummy missions. On PC, there's a special mod that PC runners can do, that can use, which is a gummy skip mod, which allows them to just go to each world without having to sit through the gummy missions. Because overall, the gummy missions, when added up, is about 25 minutes, give or take. So it just kind of helps for those that are looking to get into running, especially shorten the amount of time it takes to try and complete a run, because it is quite a bit of time to complete for newer runners, and can be discouraging because like starting out for myself, when I first started running, we were around 4.5 hours, almost 5 hours at one point, just starting out, and that was without really having much insight as to what was going on. And so, like, at least on PC, it helps make it a little bit more manageable for trying to get into runs, because it does cut out that lengthy portion of the auto scrollers, because there's no way to speed these gummy missions up, unlike with KH3, where you can kind of speed things up there with the certain gummies, and also being able to boost to each world, and also with 1FM, where you have the luxury of adding haste mods to speed up the gummy ship speed, getting world to world, and also being able to warp. Luckily, once we get through the gummy missions on second visits, we don't have to go through gummy missions again. So once we're done with them, we're done with them. And you're also noticing too, we're not really doing anything within the gummy mission itself. So there are certain score thresholds that if you hit, you get extra stuff, and we don't want to do that because it's just that much more mashing to get through all the stuff to get on our way out of the gummy mission. So we try and basically do the bare minimum for the most part. You still will get a guaranteed recommended gummy blueprint. That's just customary for completing the route for the first time. But if we were to go all out and get our medal count maxed out, or go for a super high score or anything, then we get extra stuff on top of that. So we get our party member here for the first time that's actually not able to be taken out in ping. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the black bar on the controller here so that it brings up the tutorial early. If I was to just go ahead and go into the menu after the fact without having to go through that, I'd have to go through an extended tutorial portion. So it just speeds up. It just speeds up not having to sit through extra menus for no reason. So we're hoping to get to level 2 Valor here early on in this first actual mission. Level 2 will give us a maximum of 4 form drive, which is good. It extends the amount of time that we can spend being in Valor form, which hopefully we'll hit here soon. Okay, perfect. And after we get out of Valor form here, we're going to bring Donald in because Donald Thunders are good in this section. And we're just going to continue doing fires. Doing fires with the shadows allows us to quickly fill up our drive gauge. We want to be able to get our drive gauge back to max before we're done with all the missions, so that way we can transform back into Valor to continue on with that quick movement. Oop. I'm going to get rid of Donald here because I don't want Donald touching these Nightwalkers. I want to get them as close as I can so that I can just start firing. Ooh, we are way ahead on XP. We should not already be at level 10 here. So this is kind of not a good thing here. I'm going to go ahead and empty my Blizzard, or my Magic Imp out, because when you're in MP recharge, it speeds up the bar progress. Hitting level 10 super early in that allows us to take out the Assault Rider in 2 full air combos instead of having to do 2 extra hits. Missing out on those 2 extra hits is actually kind of a big deal, because we do need to have that extra drive filled up. And I forgot to switch Donald back in because I was worried about our drive. So the start of this mission kind of off to a bit of a rough start, but that's okay. Being super good on XP early on can be both a blessing and a curse. 2FM is surprisingly one of those games where going super fast can end up hurting you more than it does good. Like right now, I kind of have to get rid of my MP so I can try and get into Valor form here. And part of that is due to the fact of the station fight back in Twilight Town, which kind of set us up, unfortunately, to be a bit over XP'd by quite a bit. So, again, like having that strength boost early on would be great, but if not being able to get your drive back in time also hurts, because you can get through mission 2 faster with that strength boost, but you don't want to go too fast in that mission. That's unfortunate. Well, we're gonna end up taking the walk of shame here with so the Assault Rider there, normally that doesn't happen. That was just an unfortunate situation with his positioning. The Assault Rider that will spawn there if I take out the Nightwalker closer to that last section of the boulders, normally won't get knocked off to the side the way that he did, but he did kind of spawn in a little late. Again, it was just unfortunate. I could have done a little bit better on the situation there, but it happens. So something to note is it does take 2 air combos to take out the assault riders, which is the guys on the horse. But the side note is if you do a side hit on the finisher with Sora, which happens if there's other enemies. Couldn't get that in time, that's fine. But if there's other enemies around when you go to do the full air combo, if Sora does a side swipe, you have to do 1 extra hit before doing the second air combo, otherwise you won't take out the assault rider into full combos. And so now we're off to Summit. It's going to be our next massive XP little grind that we're going to be doing. We are definitely quite a bit ahead on XP, so we won't have to worry as much about XP, but there's 2 ways of going about this. So the first way is getting as close to level 12 as possible, and the second is hitting level 12 during this. And so we're going to XP boost. We're going to intentionally get our health dropped down to a certain threshold by these rapid thrusters. And once we're down into the XP boost threshold, all the values will be doubled. So the bolt tower here, which is this giant dude right here, he'll be worth 48 instead of 24. And the rapid thrusters, which are these little yellow E-looking guys, they will be worth 6, as you can see. The exception to this is if I get into an RC with the bolt tower here called bolt reversal, those values will only be at base value instead of at XP boost value. So we want to try and get as many speed traps as possible because it is the strongest RC that we have in this to be able to help us out. And sorry, I stand corrected. It's not a strength boost at 12, but it gets us set up later on for the level the strength boost that's at 14. And so after that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Mulan here. I'm going to take off draw and throw on fire boost.
Give me strength.
And once again, the vast majority of our movement will be done through Valor because it is the fastest form of movement that we will have for the time being versus walking from point A to point B as base Sora. And there's 2 ways that you can go about this courtyard fight. You can either enter it in Valor form, or you can do the limit attack known as Dragon. I believe it's Dragon Blaze with Mulan. It's just quicker movement to get to here with Valor, but you have to be efficient with this courtyard fight to maximize the usage with our boss for the first visit, which is Shan Yu. And so right at the very start, we're going to do square, which is going to immediately put us into a finisher. We're going to do that twice, and then we're going to do a full air combo into a finisher, while Mulan is hopefully taking care of these Night Walkers. Perfect. So we want to force Shan Yu into the second phase here, and if we can do the combo just right, we'll immediately force him into there instead of Shan Yu needing to take a moment to power up. And then after we get out of the RC with Clashing Swords, we just do full ground combos. We kind of space out the ground combos with the slide dash, just so Shan Yu doesn't fully retaliate. And then, depending on damage output there, you can just quickly finish off the fight with a Blizzard. Because the Blizzard counts as a finisher. Because in this game, in order to finish off bosses, you have to do finishers. Or use magic. And the other exception to the rule is using horizontal slash, which is something that we get later on. But if you don't do a finisher or use magic on an enemy that can be hit by magic that's not immune to it, you can't end the fight. 1FM, you're able to just end the fight without a finisher, so it's a lot easier to just do a bunch of combos quickly in the air instead of having to worry about managing your health to be able to end the fight on a finisher. So this gummy mission actually is the first of 2 dangerous gummy missions. Ideally, when you're at home, you have bathroom breaks that you can do for most of the gummy routes. There's this one. It is kind of a big no-no unless you're going to be super quick, because you can die in a hurry. And the running joke really is you're not really a runner for KH until you've actually died in a gummy mission, which everybody has died at some point. Even the person that holds world record for this run in most of the categories, he's also died in a gummy mission for 2FM. So if you end up dying in a gummy mission during your run, don't feel bad. It seriously can happen to anybody, and it kind of gives you, in a way, your mark for running. But once again, just kind of doing roughly the minimum through here. This cannon portion can be a bit dangerous, but just if we time our dodges with the gummy ship and a bunch of other stuff, then we don't gotta really worry. But there's plenty of enemies as well that can provide HP orbs to bring our gummy ship back up to full health. The cannonballs especially are the ones you got to watch out for the most. You can dodge them pretty easily, but it's just better to take them out. The score threshold and everything on this is super high, so unless you're going crazy, you don't got to worry about getting anything extra. So we're just chilling as we scroll through this. And it's kind of funny, the differences when you're running any percent versus doing a plat run. When you're doing a plat run for this game, you actually kind of have to try in every single gummy mission instead of just nonchalantly going about things, because you want to try and minimize the amount of time you're spent in doing gummy missions. And so when you're doing a plat run, you actually have to go all out in every single mission. So you can try and get all the bonus rewards that you can get as soon as you can, among a number of other things. So it's just kind of funny to see the vast differences with having to kind of try and keep yourself alive versus you're going all out to annihilate everything in your path. And so an important thing to note with our routing here, we're going to be visiting Olympus Coliseum instead of going to Beast Castle, which is the world off to our left. And a big reason for that is the Keyblade that we're going to be acquiring from this world. Its property is called Air Combo Boost. So we do more damage on air combo finishers. And also the strats that we're going to be doing in Beast Castle require us being at level 14. So that way we can have a much easier time. And it'll be something of note later on when it comes to world routing for certain things versus just finishing out worlds or doing worlds a certain way. and it just comes down to battle levels, which battle levels play a part in it, and also the abilities that we have at our disposal at the time that we're going to certain worlds, along with our levels, and also certain keyblades. For the most part, we're going to be using Hero's Crest throughout a good portion of this run, until a little after roughly the halfway point, which is not really so much the halfway point, but when you compare based on time, but overall as a run, it's pretty much our halfway point of the run. And so the little lancers there, we're using them to damage boost for movement, because again, so when we're in the underworld, we can't use drive form, so we have to find ways to get movement the best way as possible here. So we use the lancers, little thrust there to push us forward a bit so we can continue moving. Hades Escape here has a bit of control for things, but it's very RNG for how things can go. Donald and Orin can kind of mess up a lot of things here, and Hades also can be kind of a bit of a nuisance, which it looks like he's gonna be trying to be a bit of a nuisance here, unfortunately. We want to try and get both Lancers next to us if we can. It just makes it much easier to deal with both Lancers, just doing fires without doing a finisher, because we want to keep the Lancers under control. And then on the final wave here, we're going to be using the bats here as a weapon, and using their RC called Bat Cry. Donald and Orin again can kind of screw this up for us, because if the bats get hit again after the RC pops up, it can unfortunately take the RC away and you have to reset the RC. Something else to note too, we try and do target switching here, and unlike with 1FM, we have to actually target switch a little harder here. So we have to hold down the R2 button and also use our R3 to direct our target switches. Uh-oh. That's fine, I'm just gonna have to... Yeah, had to do it that way because the large body there was kind of in a weird spot. And Hades wasn't playing nice, and Donald also was kind of interfering a little bit with our back cries to an extent, which is unfortunate. It's happened. Not really anything we could do about it. That's why OC is such a hard world to run consistently, because the moment you set foot, there's certain elements that we can control. But for the most part, the moment we set foot in OC, it's just a giant RNG fest. I've had a lot of really good paces early on through Hades Escape, which is that section that we just did, and also Cerberus, which is the fight coming up right now, and then have the rest of OC just be a dud. So we're going to open up with an air combo here, let Cerberus do a full attack, hopefully don't get Dwayne, which we just nicknamed the rocks Dwayne, because they can also ruin your air combo. Why they thought putting rocks falling in the underworld as a good idea? Okay, that's what I thought. I thought we were going into fireballs here. Maybe? No. Cerberus is being a little funky here. He's going to turn around here once more and go into a fireball attack. Once he actually sets foot and goes into doing that attack, we're going to use Orin's Limit here. We're not going to do the finisher. We're just going to do enough to do damage to Cerberus. We want to try and keep Cerberus away from the steps further back in the arena, because if we're by the steps when we do the start that limit, attack, you lose out on a lot of damage. On crit, we wouldn't do the actual fight. We would actually death abuse there. And the reason for that is there's certain fights in this game which we won't be seeing on this run, hopefully. But Mickey can save you, and you can fight as Mickey. We would do that entire fight as Mickey on both crit and level 1 just because it's a lot faster than trying to do the fight in base form. So Phil's training, also kind of another bummer on beginner. Much like with struggle fights, we still don't have the ability draw. So all these orbs, we have to get close enough to actually pull the orbs in. Whereas with crit, we actually get the luxury of the orbs just kind of getting sucked into us. So we're able to kind of move a little bit faster on crit. Plus, on crit, we have an extra ability called Finishing Plus early on, which gives us a second finisher. Which makes this so much easier. And on this next portion here, we're just going to blitz the urns as much as we can, try and pick up any the orbs as we go. We want to try and take out the clusters as they spawn because it just makes it much nicer before they have a chance to start running away. And we're doing that until we get the big urn here. We're going to knock the... Hopefully. This urn's in a very bad spot. Yikes. Alright, well, that's unfortunate. So the big urn was unfortunately in the corner there, and I could not get around the urn in time to knock it into the other urns. So when you do that with the big urn into the smaller urns, it creates big orbs for everything. And it's just very unfortunate. There was nothing I could do about that. So we're going to be picking up a very important strength boost there, which we'll be using all that here coming up. Forgot I don't have aerial dive on yet. So this back chest in the right corner there is an ether. I'm not picking that up. My routing that I do now, I don't need to pick up that ether anymore. Starting out, I definitely recommend picking that up, just because the ether count is very valuable early on, because item management is very, very big in this game. You don't want to burn ethers too much in certain spots, because otherwise later on when you need them, you're not going to have them. Plus, we want to make sure we have enough ethers by the time that we get to the end of the run for a lot of the strats that we're going to be doing in order to be able to actually finish the run in a good way. So this part here also, just the giant RNG pool. We want to try and keep the water clones here going towards Demix, which is the guy in the middle on the little guitar. Because the clones spawn from Demix, so the more that we can try and keep this under control towards him, the better. That's actually really good. Anything in the upper 40s is a really good sequence there. Anything above 50 and you got some real good luck on your side there. So just a little bit of movement here after the AP boost, which we're going to go ahead and pop those now. Alright, whoa. And going to throw on combo boost. And I'm going to turn Donald to Soar Attack. And Soar Attack basically is just, they just stand there. They don't do anything. And the only reason I'm doing that is to prevent Donald from interfering with our XP boost here, because once again, We're going to be XP boosting real quick with Pete. All the bats will be worth 34 XP apiece, as long as I can get down to that threshold, which we are now at. And I have to be the one to take them out, because with party members, if they take them out, it's just base value. Which, we're a little behind towards 14, I think. So I'll have to do a little bit of work. There is a way to manipulate Pete here, but I'm still working on that. It's something I haven't gotten consistent at yet, so I'm just gonna have to play it as we go. Oh yeah, we'll be plenty fine here. And we also want to pick up the money as we go. All that's super important for later on. We want to have 640 money, I believe. I might be remembering wrong, but I'll know for sure later on. So we're going to do a quick slide dash here. Wait for the bats to come down to do a bat cry into Pete. And normally I would just do air hits without a finisher there, but that ghost orb was kind of lingering. And if Pete had a chance to recover there, he would do his attack called Pinball, which he basically just shielding himself, which is something that we really don't want to have happen. I'm going to go ahead and take off XP boost now. We're no longer going to need XP boost. And we're throwing on a big ability called Trinity Limit, which we're going to be doing in this fight after we get out of Valor form. And it's going to be doing a lot of damage to Hydra here. And hopefully Hydra cooperates, which he did not. That's unfortunate. Hydra will sometimes duck his head down immediately after the finisher there, which is what we want to have happen, but it was just unfortunate that he didn't do that. And it's just something that happens. It's something that you can control. So because we're level 14, we don't have to do the actual fill mechanic in this. So Phil's going to be yelling at us here to get on the Hydra's back. We're going to ignore Phil. Because of the strength boost that we have, we're able to do all 3 heads without having to stun, which helps save a little bit on time versus doing the actual mechanic. Open up with the X attack there for the Trinity, followed by Ultima. And we got pretty good damage here. The head pattern's not too friendly, but hopefully we can get the kill. I just got it. Getting a Trinity-less finish, this is what that kind of finish is called. Basically, it means that we're able to end the fight without having to use a second Trinity. If we were unable to end that fight before the Hydra heads went back up, we would have to quickly pop an ether or 2, depending on the head pattern. The head pattern that Hydra gave us is one of the shorter patterns, but because we're level 14, we're able to manage that just fine. So thankfully we were able to save a couple ethers, which we'll be actually using that later on for a fight that I would normally end up having to save depending on how that fight went. So we're going to go say hi to Pooh real quick. Hi Pooh. It's a very quick visit. We actually don't really spend any time in this world, but a few seconds. So we get to say hi Pooh for a moment, and then we get shoved out of the book. Fortunately, my slide dashes are not coming out, which is weird. So normally I would slide dash into the soldiers there, which will usually proc their Cyclone. You can also walk forward and do a fire, which will also activate the Cyclone. After you get rid of the 3 soldiers and at least 1 shadow, which Donald and Goofy usually handle, you can go ahead and go into a Trinity doing Major Drive. And basically you're just going to do that with aiming away from the enemies and do an empty Trinity. Because the more hits you do before you do the finisher in a Trinity is the more hits before the finisher comes out. And so the less hits you do overall before you activate the finisher for Trinity itself, the sooner the Trinity finish comes out entirely. Which is something we're going to be doing again later on for a few fights, because it's just quicker to do that versus doing multiple hits to get the same result. And it's just something that you kind of have to play by ear, mainly because it's something that you kind of have to start feeling out. But for the most part, doing it that way will get you the results that you're seeing there. And actually, this mission I can actually kind of take off for a moment. I'll be able to get my health back, so I'm in no actual danger in this gummy mission. Because this big guy here is going to take just a few full attacks with our lasers and be able to get our health back. And then now it's just kind of just chilling again until the end of the gummy mission. For a lot of runners, it's nice to have these kind of breaks. For other runners, it's kind of hit and miss on gummy missions, just because if you're in the middle of a good run, like super good run, and you're feeling it, gummy missions can kind of suck that air and momentum out of you. But on the flip side of things, if you're having a kind of a rough run, then you get kind of a chance to kind of recollect yourself versus being on the go constantly. Again, it's something that's kind of there's two sides to it, and it's helpful but also not helpful at the same time, just because, like, for some people you can end up getting in your head. Like if your run's going sour, you kind of dwell on what had happened, which I've been guilty of a few times. My run getting sub 3 finally is a huge thing in 2FM for both, like, I think any of the categories really, but we were down big coming out of OC. Everything was just not going our way, and it was rough. So it was just one of those things where it's like I could have done this, and this better, or if this had gone this way, then, you know, have better results. So once again, with this pre-fight here, I'm going to launch Trinity into Ultima and go straight into Finisher. That fight ends based on hits, so we just have to do Ultima there to be able to get out of that fight immediately. And now we're on our way to our first fight in this world, called Thresholder. This fight can vary in a number of ways depending on the level. If you're level 14, we have to intentionally whiff a hit before we start our combo into a finisher. Otherwise, if you were to do the combo into the finisher, you'd have to do a 2-cycle. However, if you're level 13, you're able to do the strat the other way of doing the 3 hits into the finisher. And it's 3 inputs, not just 3 Valor hits in general, but it's the 3 X inputs into the finisher. So we're going to go ahead and go into Valor once again. And I'll talk about a mechanic here shortly involving drive forms. It's something that we kind of have to route intentionally. That's good. What's not good is that. So we're going to have to do this. Yeah, that's unfortunate. The gargoyle there kind of spun back, which is kind of unfortunate news. We'll be able to save this barely. We were able to get at least a quick 2-cycle. The gargoyle spinning back towards where we were going is a big issue because it will, one, auto lock onto the gargoyle. Number 2, the gargoyle is already in our way and in the midst of an attack, so we're getting hit by that, unfortunately. But thankfully, I was able to recognize that we were. As soon as I heard the initial hit connect, I knew we were in trouble. So it's just booking it back to the door to get a full air combo off before Thresholder could unleash an attack to kind of stall us. Otherwise, we would have been in big time trouble with our form and had to burn the drive recovery to kind of save this world. It's much quicker to just burn the drive recovery in this world versus saving it for the world I'm actually intending to use it for, because movement is a huge key along with the strats that we're doing through Beast Castle here. So it's just easier to eat the small time loss with burning the drive recovery and continuing our way with the 2-cycle versus trying to save it for the world that I'm intending it for and eating a huge time loss in Beast Castle. Because it's easier to manage the world coming up without the drive recovery versus trying to manage this world without the Valor form. So we're going to stun Beast here and do a full air combo. If you're not level 13 before you go into here, you have to use the previous room to level up until you get to 14. You still want to make sure you have enough Valor form by the time you get there if you are going to level up to 14 for that strength boost. Because otherwise, if you try and send it without that strength boost, then you do less damage to Beast and won't be able to do a full air combo. So we're doing a little bit of world warping here, something that we'll do a little bit later on as well. We're able to do that on PS4 versus PS3 because of the load times, so we can actually world warp to Bell's room and back to the parlor much faster than it takes to run there. So the very start here, we're going to run back away from the enemy here. When we do that, that's unfortunate. Their X input didn't come out, so that's a bit of an unfortunate situation here, but we'll try and recover. But normally we would want to run back, which causes Dark Ball here to go backwards. Might be able to have enough drive to do a finisher here. I should have enough. We might be okay. So at the very start here with Darkthorn, we're going to go ahead and do square square. And because I didn't have enough drive, it just auto-reverted. And we'll go straight into Trinity. Once the Trinity finishes its initial attack, I go ahead and do a quick air hit in the hopes of hitting Darkthorn as he starts doing his Desperation move. And that allows me to, once he jumps over, be able to re-stagger him while also having that delayed timing from the second start of the second half of the break for the Trinity. And it allows us to have a very free fight there. So now getting to the whole the drive thing. So every time that we transform into any drive form, minus final form, which we won't be using in this run, that's kind of more of an extended category type form. But anytime that we use a drive form, we get an anti-point. And as those accumulate before we get another form, it increases the chances of us turning anti-form. which is a special dark form. It's strong, but it's not something that we're going to be using, that we want to use, because we take more damage in that form, first off. We can't use magic, we can't use a lot of things, and also combos are very funky. And so we have it all routed out specifically to use dry form in specific spots, so that way we never get anti unless we force it, which we're going to be actually doing that way later in the run. That was actually a really good push. I don't remember who had found the push mechanic for Minnie there, but we're able to push Minnie Mouse alongside the wall there and bypass having to call her over and escorting her that way. Because the ballroom is as big as it is, we can't do that, so we actually have to go through calling her over and doing her faith attack, because we also want to try and get as much XP during this while we're escorting her, and if we're lucky enough, we'll get some money along the way, which will also kind of help fund us with ethers, and also, if we're short on money, get us to the money threshold that we need to pick up an item called Tourmaline Rings. The Tourmaline Rings are going to give us a +2, or I think it's a +1, sorry. +1 to strength and +2 to abilities, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we're doing good on money. You just need 640 to get to where you need to be in order to get the rings, because we need 2, not only for filling the new accessory slot that we have, but also filling, covering over the metal that we had acquired earlier. So we're going to go ahead and buy those, and then we're going to immediately equip them on for the strength boost and the AP boost. And this is one of my favorite worlds, just from the design of the world and just the world in general as a whole. It's just such a fun world. It's also going to be our first look at summons too, coming up. And with Boat Pete there, because we were already level 3 Valor, we were able to just go ahead and do a full air combo. I like to be level 3 before the end of that fight if possible, so if I don't hit it during that, then I'll stall it out and do a couple of hits before then. But now, good old Chicken Little time. So Chicken Little, we don't have Magnet yet, which is another ability that we'll have later on. But Chicken Little allows us to pull enemies into us for free. We just have to maintain a certain distance from the enemies in order to get Chicken Little to whistle them in. And it also is in accordance to distance from Sora. So Chicken Little gets used a lot within this world and a couple other worlds. And with us hitting level 18, we have a new ability called Reaction Boost, which is going to be very useful in this fight. Summon Chicken Little once again. Try and get ourselves centered up before this bounces us. And we can do a fire here and immediately go into an RC to be able to end the fight. And I forgot, it's not level 18, I'm thinking way ahead to something else. But we still need a reaction boost in order to be able to take out the hammerheads with just the 1 RC. So once again, with the fire window, we're going to go ahead and summon Chicken Little. Back up towards Chicken Little, do a fire into a thunder, hope Chicken doesn't knock an enemy away with his baseballs. I'm going to back away from the enemy here and hope Chicken helps me out a little bit. And with the cars, we do a full air combo. Unfortunately, Chicken sent them into their little crazy threshold, so kind of had to back off to have Chicken hopefully pull them back in, which thankfully he did. Otherwise, those cars will run rampant. For the final window, though, we are not going to be summoning Chicken Little. We're going to actually be doing an empty Trinity to end the fight. So we're just going to get through these enemies as quickly as we can. And once the final wave of enemies, which is the Rapid Thruster spawn, we go into Trinity and aim our Trinity away from the wall with the Major Drive. Because once again, when we go into the finisher for Trinity, it will immediately end the fight. And so that very important drive recovery from earlier, we're going to go ahead and pop that now. So when we come out of Valor, our drive will be recovered, and we'll be able to immediately go back into Valor form. And while we're in Valor form, we actually will do increased damage through this entire thing versus just being in base form Sora. And once we hop onto the crane, we're just going to do full combos. And at least after the third one, you want to go into 1-2s until you get down to enough to be able to finish the fight. Because the crane, after it goes away the first time, it's a little less generous with being able to hang on. So if you get caught sleeping with the crane going into the its RC mechanic, you'll get thrown off, and unfortunately not only probably lose Valor form, but also lose a bit of time. Because you have to kill a bunch of bomb eggs before you can continue on the crane. And with this fight, we're just going to do square to win. Because where our strength is at with Valor form, we just have to do square twice on Pete to transition into the next area. And then just the RC to win. And the RC can kind of come up at random times, unfortunately, so there's not a consistent way to have it proc against Pete, but that was a pretty solid Timeless River. Timeless River is kind of a harder one to go super fast in, just because you have to rely on Chicken Little. And if Chicken Little's not cooperating or helping you with pulling in and it's trying to knock enemies away, it can make for a really rough time. So this is now kind of like our bigger break time with Gummy Missions. This one is definitely the more relaxed one of them all. So we're able to kind of kick back a bit more. I still like to move around a bit just to not get too carried away with being relaxed, because if you are not careful, it can end up biting you in the butt, because next thing you know you're in danger, and then next thing you know you're dead. So our next world coming up is going to be Port Royal. And it's funny because for a long while, and it still kind of happens every now and then, but they would try and have issues with the music in it, because they use the exact the exact music, but they try and change it up slightly, but it still sounds enough like the Pirates of the Caribbean music that they're like, yeah, no. But it's not an issue overall. It's something that no matter what happens, it just for some reason always comes up. But yeah, we're gonna be seeing a lot more of Chicken Little through there. It's Timeless River and Port Royal are kind of the two premier worlds for Chicken Little. And then after that, Chicken Little kind of dies off. Pretty much never be. Yeah, pretty much never to be seen in the rest of the run, actually. Or no, I take that back. There's 2 more instances that Chicken Little could be used. But after that, we don't see him the rest of the run. We'll have another summon that we'll be using quite a bit as well, but not nearly as much as Chicken Little. And there will be a 3rd summon that we're only going to see once, and it's just primarily for a bit of safety with the strat that I will be doing, just because the normal strat that I would normally try and do, we've been having issues just being consistent with it, so I figure it doesn't like to not really lose as much time, but just to kind of keep it relatively clean for the fight. I figure I'll pick up this extra summon. I think it's only about a 10, maybe a 10-second difference, if that. Yeah, I think it's like maybe a 5-second difference. So, at the expense of that, we'll pick up another summon later on.
Give me strength.
So Port Royal has special properties with the pirates, so that they do have their actual cursed forms and their when the moon's not out form. When they're in their cursed forms, we're able to actually do damage to them. Magic is very strong against them, and also very strong in the sense of when we use Blizzard, we actually will freeze them. If we were to do fire, they would run around, but we don't want that, so we'll be primarily using Blizzard on the pirates. And with this fight here, once again, just utilizing Chicken here and a bunch of fires. Hopefully Chicken helps us. He did not there at the very end, but basically after each wave, we just kind of run away and go back towards Chicken. And something that we do as well to help with summon levels, because summon levels, the way that they work is every oops, getting ahead of myself here. Every time that the summon level goes down, is a point towards the summon leveling. So it doesn't have to be a full tick either, it just has to be enough for it to go from, say, 3 down to 2, and if it goes immediately back up to 3 and ticks back down to 2, it's a level. So that'll be kind of something that I'll be doing here to kind of help with leveling a little bit, because we don't really need summon levels to be super high, but it does help for future stuff. Just so we don't risk the chance of running out of our summon. And here, once again, Chicken Little is going to be the feature. We want to try and position ourselves away from the pirates as best as possible, so that way they get pulled in. And while they're bunched up, we go ahead and just do blizzards on them for the most part until they get taken out. And this is also a bit of a money grind / XP grind as well. So you see right there as well that we immediately went up to summon level 2. That's part of the leveling that I was talking about, where it doesn't have to be a full tick for it to count. It's just based on the number changing. I got greedy there. Normally I would do FPS mode to drain the rest of the summon gauge, but we had already hit level 2, so it's not that big of a deal. On a beginner, we can actually skip this fight. We don't have to do the forced fights. On crit, depending on the routing that you do, you have to actually do the fight. And you have to be actually extra careful not to lose too much to summon with chicken there. So this fight, no matter how many times you practice it, can be hard to pick up. Also, a fun thing to point out with the ads coming in is they're in a sequence. So certain sequenced pirates that get taken out before the others will spawn the bomb pirates in earlier. And then it can throw you off a little bit because everything is in this fight is on a sequence for the enemies that spawn. So unfortunately, I'm being held back right now because this one melee pirate kind of lingered. So this is not a really good fight, unfortunately. It's good enough to get the job done, but it definitely could be a lot better. A really good fight is before the music starts to loop, but we did the best that we could there, given the sequence that we were given. I'm going to go ahead and transform the Valor immediately for movement, and if you position yourself just right with the barrels, you can actually do it quicker. Each barrel has like a specific spot that when you do the command, it will do it. This is not good. Okay. Fortunately, we're going to probably lose out a little bit on Valor Drive going to our world boss, Barbosa. But that's okay. So, depending on the route that you do for your AP, the 40 route, which I've been working on getting better with, we would actually skip these 2 chests because they're not needed for our AP routing. But for the route that I was initially doing, which is the 45 AP route, I do need to pick those 2 chests up, which is a little time consuming and also drains your Valor a bit more. But that's just the expense of doing the route that I'm doing. So once we freeze Barbosa, we're just going to start wailing into him with air combos. He will slide, so it's nice to try and keep him up against the wall, if at all possible. Just to make for an easier fight. Normally, I'd be able to get 2 Valor combos in before being reverted. But unfortunately, because of certain sequences, we weren't able to maintain that. But we still have a good backup in place. Costs a little bit of time, but it's fine. It still gets the job done. So now the second of our dangerous gummy missions, actually. Oddly enough, we actually kind of have to be on our toes a little bit through this one, because we want to try and minimize the damage that we take through here, if at all possible. There is a gummy boss that'll be coming up that, if you're not careful with, can kill you before you can take it out. So that's kind of the big reason why we want to try and limit how much damage we take before we get to that point. For the most part, it's not going to be too bad, but for newer runners, it can be a very scary thing to have to deal with. And ultimately, a lot of newer runners will die to it multiple times within a single run. It happens until you get used to being able to dodge around with the gummy ship, and also being able to handle the boss in a much cleaner manner for the most part. Like I said, he's not really much of a boss. It's something to be concerned about. Jim Dale will yell at you and say, "Hey, watch out!" And now we're just gonna pretty much mash X as much as we can to try and get this thing out of here, because the longer this thing stays on the field, the scarier it can get, because it has so many attacks that can quickly obliterate you if you're not careful. We'll be getting our first look, too, at our second form that we've had since the end of Disney Castle / Timeless River, known as Wisdom Form. To level up that form, you have to kill Heartless while in that form to level it up. And we're going to be leveling up that form twice within Agrabah here, and we have it set up to where specifically to where we can level up where we need to. And there's a couple different manners that we can go about it. We can go for the safer manner of killing X amount of Heartless before we get to the big fight later on, or we can skip a bunch and work on it there. And so here we're just going to do a quick death abuse. There are certain fights where we can death abuse, which is much faster than actually going through the motions of all of it. We're going to go ahead and buy as many ethers as we can there. The route that I do now, we access the Moogle early for synthesis. The mithril item that we picked up earlier in Timeless, or if you pick it up in or if you pick up the mithril item in Port Royal, then you can deposit it there to get an elixir, because you get an elixir for the first time that you present a mithril item to the Moogle in the synthesis shop. And Wisdom Form, we want to get to level 3, which we will be able to do with the routing that we have for this world. And that will allow us to have Quick Run in base form Sora, which will make it to where we don't have to rely on using forms to get through each world. We can actually go ahead and just use Quick Run in base form Sora to get where we need to get to much quicker than having to, again, rely on forms. And now we just have to push Abu to the pedestal here. We don't want to mash the triangle if we can help it. We want to try and get Abu as much as we can. A good sequence with having Wisdom Form is getting done with this with plenty before it ticks down to 0. Because we want to have enough. We want to have enough Wisdom Form drive in this that once we drop down here, we're gonna have 4 ice cubes that we're gonna take out. We're gonna go ahead and reflect, and that gives us 4 points right there towards Wisdom Form. Something to note with aerial spiral, which is the move that you're seeing happen when I jump and attack an enemy head on, is the little spin motion. The more hits that you do on that before you go into the finisher, the more damage that will accumulate overall. Because if you sit there mashing X, you will actually do less damage on the aerial spiral. And a bit of a swag finish there with Reflect into Trinity onto the second Sorcerer there. Because the Reflect will carry it over with us as we do the Trinity there. So the attack will immediately take out the Sorcerer versus just doing a standalone Trinity. So once we hit level 2 there, we're going to go ahead and do fires on as many of these enemies as we can until we hit level 3. Or until we get to 3 on our thing. Then we're going to bring Goofy back into the party here. Reflect into Ultima. Gonna kind of position ourselves here a little bit with the second portion of the Trinity with Major Drive and go into the finisher for it. And that will finish off it, the fight. You have to be really careful doing the method that I did there for Wisdom grinding because if you're not careful, you'll take out too many Heartless and you won't be able to get to level 3 during that fight. That's it, actually. Oh, I forgot one important thing. Whoops. I knew I forgot something in the menu. I did that during practice too. We're gonna get a first look at Donald's limit ability called Comet Rain. It's gonna be a very strong ability throughout this fight here. So we're gonna jump at the Fire Lord here to our left. We're gonna reflect into Comet Rain. We're gonna do an arrow spiral with another comet. We're going to do one comet there into Comet Rain, finisher on the Ice Lord. Once the Ice Lord comes back out, you just have to do one hit into a finisher. And with the Fire Lord, just have to do a full air combo there. We'll do one hit there with the ground attack there, and delay going into our next part of the combo because it will automatically put us up into the air to do a full air combo to be able to finish out the fight there. I was going to mention that Twilight Town's back, but we're not going to go there just yet. Oops. Because with Twilight Town, we want to be a certain level. Plus, we'll also have a certain ability known as Magnet at our disposal once we get pretty much done with Halloween Town, which is our next world coming up. And this will also be our second to last dummy mission within the game that we'll be actually doing. After this, for quite a bit, we won't have another gummy mission till the later portion of the game when we're getting ready to head towards our end game portion of the run. Which also a lot of runners use this as their final chance to use the restroom or get the water or whatever they need for the final push until the next gummy mission, because it's a bit of a stretch from now until that next gummy mission. Something I forgot to mention too. I partially mentioned. The level 3 wisdom that we acquired back in Agrabah allowed us now to have quick run, which is what I equipped there before the Lord's fight. And so now, everywhere we go, we're going to be using that for the most part for our movement, instead of relying on Valor and relying on Wisdom form for our movement. Because Wisdom form we pretty much only used to do the level grinding there for Wisdom specifically, and for 2 other places for movement. Otherwise, Wisdom form isn't used at all for anything else but for movement. I think I also left out something else of importance. So, pretty much every single world that we go to when we finish up, which is also the reason that we have our forms routed out the way that we do, we have our summons routed out the way that we do. Every time that we finish up a world, we get our drive back, and especially every time that we learn a new drive form, we get our drive back. Or no. I stand corrected, sorry. Master form, which will be coming up, we wouldn't get our dry form back. But if we're in a form for certain things as well, at the end of worlds or anything like that, or even after the fact, we will have that come back to us. Which is why we're able to route everything the way that we're able to. The other thing I forgot to point out with anti-points and anti-form. So Sora can only go anti-form if there are 2 party members in the party. And one of them has to be, or both party members have to be alive in order for Sora to go, in order for Sora to have the chance of going anti-form. If Sora's by himself, or if a party member is dead, Sora does not have any chance of going into anti-form. And later on, we'll have a chance of hitting final form instead of anti-form. Either of which is fine, but we want to honestly hope that we don't hit hit final form, because it will kind of put things in a bit of a weird situation. So we're going to go ahead and take Jack's items from him, and that's basically the extent of that menu. We're going to go ahead and use summon there to bring Genie out. This is another forced fight where we can actually intentionally die on. And it's just easier to summon Genie out, because then we don't have to worry about setting the party members to anything. And also, in a weird way, we can kind of grind summon levels, which they're at this point they're not really relevant and needing to get the levels. We just mainly need to hit level 2 summon, just to kind of have an easier time with a lot of things later on, because we're going to have a huge XP grind coming up a little bit later. So at the very start of this, we're not going to go towards the Jack-in-the-Box there. We're going to actually back off for a moment, let him plant, quick run, Blizzard. Oh. I was hoping to quick run Blizzard. That's fine. The other one already sat down. That's unfortunate. So Jack's limit is one of the stronger limits in the game, called Dance Call. A better fight would be for that Jack-in-the-Box to not escape, and also we would also be able to have both Jack-in-the-Box doesn't spawn after the fact get pulled in, because Jack's limit Dance Call has a pull-in mechanic as well, similar to that of like Chicken Littles, but it actually will pull enemies into the limit. So at the very start here, or before this next fight here, I get right up to the wall here before the transition room and go into Valor form. We're going to be using Valor form to open up this fight for the most part. Depending on who gets pulled in, which is Barrel, it's fine. The start of the fight is random every single time. It could be one of 3 kids. It could be Shock, Lock, or Barrel at the very start. It can be one of the 3 children, and each of the children have their own. Oh, that's unfortunate. We were like right there at the threshold, but because of the damage that we're doing, they immediately. Oh, that's really unfortunate. It's fine. We can recover this. So we're going to use Dance Call again here. It got kind of thrown off there a little bit. So the health threshold got kind of thrown off a little bit. It's supposed to do another sequence where it goes up into the RC, but it didn't do that for some reason. But that's fine. Might be in a little trouble with summon to get Chicken Little, actually. We'll be able to figure something out here. At the start of the World Warp there, we go ahead and grab that AP boost off to our left. And now we're going to deal with a bit of a slight auto-scroller. There's not too much that we can do to speed this up. We can damage, well, not really damage Oogie, but we can Thunder Oogie to get a little bit of drive back. Drive back here. Because we want to try and get 3 drive before the end of his break sequence here, which I'll probably have to delay doing a finisher to send him out. I'll probably do this a little slower. Because Oogie won't get sent back until you do a finisher for the most part. Something else that you can do is you can go all out and send him away and do Chicken Little later. We'll try and see if we can do the present skip here. It's something I'm still working on, but we're hoping that we can get it. Which I think they both got taken out, unfortunately. Yeah, they both got taken out. That's fine, though. So after the first sequence, the amount of presents before Oogie moves gets reduced, and on the final sequence, it gets reduced even further. And depending on the Heartless that comes out of the present, I'd go ahead and do Dance Call a bit early, because the Dust Rock there can be very dangerous, as it will do a massive arrow attack, which will put you in a bit of a cyclone there. So now it's going to be in a sequence of 4 before Oogie moves. So after the 4th present, it's going to break any of the extra ones, and Oogie's going to move. So we want to try and get situated up here. You can kind of anticipate for the most part which way he's going to go, but it's still better to just make sure fully of which way he's going to actually go. And the lightning, by the way, is not all that dangerous on beginner, but crit, you can actually get stun locked into oblivion. With the second one, though, we're going to go ahead and try and move to the center and hope he stays instead of doing a double movement, which he didn't move twice, which is actually huge. When Oogie moves twice, you have to go through an extra motion of going through the tunnel, and on top of that, it's that much more time before you can actually transition into the next little area. That was a pretty good fight. Like I said, there's not really too much that you can do to speed it up. The only thing really that you can do to speed it up is actual damage to Oogie and the presence for the most part that you knock up into the box. Otherwise, there's not too much. So now we're going back to Twilight Town for a rather big fight here. Because we finished up Halloween Town, we now have the access to Magnet. So at the very start here, we're going to go do a slide dash towards the dust in front of us, go back, reflect into Magnet, give it just a moment, into Sonic, reflect onto this Berserker, into another Magnet, into Sonic Rave, into a full Sonic Rave this time. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, this is fine. I'm gonna have to improvise here. It would not target lock into the one I wanted. This might be trouble. Yep, this is trouble. Okay, we're good. We have a Claymore here. Okay, good recovery. There's a chance that all the Berserkers won't jump over, which was really unfortunate. That was a really good fight, other than that small little hiccup of not being able to get target switch to the Berserkers that were jumping. We want to get to the Berserker that's jumping over at least, so that way we do the Magnet into Ultima. Bigger enemies you want to do Ultima with because it'll pull the enemy in constantly into the Magnet, doing extra hits, doing extra damage to the Berserkers and also bigger enemies for the most part within the Magnet. And like I said, it was just unfortunate. I was trying to get target switched and it just wouldn't do it. I tried to do it a couple different ways there to try and salvage it, but thankfully not too much damage was done. Still a good fight overall with how everything was going. So now we're kind of starting into our second visit sequences. We're in Wisdom Form because with it being Wisdom Form level 3, while Base Form has level 1 Quick Run, we have level 2 Quick Run in Wisdom Form. And we're covering quite a bit of distance here to get to our actual intended destination. So we use Wisdom Form here to traverse to our next destination rather than do base Sora. Plus, movement overall is a little bit better than base Sora in general with Wisdom Form. If we do Magnet, as you saw as I'm going towards the ledge there, we can kind of glide a little bit with the Wisdom Form, which allows us to get slightly better height if we take it at at the best angle there. And something that you saw way back at the very start, we can actually use fire in Wisdom Form to project ourselves forward, which allows us to cover distance in the air without having to go all the way around.
Yeah, give me
Oh.
strength.
My slide dashes have been very weird. It's all good though. So Tron World, it's a bit of a shorter visit on the first go around. We won't be actually coming back at all once we're done with this world entirely. This is one of the few worlds that I mentioned that we won't be paying a second visit to and or going to in general. And with this minigame here, we're going to preset Wisdom Form once again for movement. To end this minigame, the block that was glowing right at the very start, you have to use a finisher on. But with the drive explosion, when you transform, it counts as a finisher, so you can just do that on the block instead. Plus, it gives us slightly better movement, getting back to where we need to go. There's going to be a chest now after we get Master Form here. So, one more thing I forgot to mention with anti-points. Every time we get a new form, our anti-points get completely reset. So everything that's routed is routed exactly the way they are, so that way when we do get a form, we never have to worry about transforming into anti-form. But that big chest that you saw back there before I went back into Space Paranoids here was the Stitch chest. On beginner, we don't use Stitch, but on crit and level 1 especially, we pick up that chest for different reasons, for the XP grinding that we're going to be doing coming up here. And with the minigame here, there's going to be select cycles that we're going to be trying to target the green ones that we saw there at the end of the little introduction to Light Cycle. When the green ones are with their shield around them, we want to... that's going to be a problem. That's fine. The green ones we wanted to go ahead and bounce off of their shield with the attack, which gives us movement tech within this mini game to speed this up a little bit. So just like that, because otherwise if you just were to do this normal without doing that movement, then it would just take a little longer. But there's 2 instances for sure. There's a third that we can try and get, which is that one right there. But you have to position yourself in a good spot. There's a couple other instances where we can get another one, but it's very random. The white bikes that you saw do any of the 3 moves for the blue, yellow, and green bikes. So if they don't do the shield, there's not really much we can do about it. There's no way to guarantee that they'll shield up either. So we just kind of have to go with it. So we're going to go ahead and equip Follow the Wind, which gives us the intricate ability called Draw, which still don't have yet, but we will actually have the ability later on within the run itself. But for now, we're going to go ahead and equip this on. We're going to go ahead and have Genie ready to go. I'm going to make sure Comet's preset, because Comet can kind of be funky for later on. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that's ready to go. But with Genie being set here, once I get to the top of the hill there, summon him. Hope he's in Master Form, which he showed up, thankfully. We're going to go up to this line right here at the very start. Magnet into Arcana. And the reason for having Follow the Wind on is the draw ability allows for the clusters to get pulled in while we're doing that. And then after that, we're just going to do Reflect. Reflect into Strike. We're going to wait for the Reflect to pop off, so that way we can just loop this infinitely. We're going to get to level 22 before we go ahead and end this little XP grind here. The other way, which I'm still not fully comfortable with, is just ending this immediately and doing level 21 fight that's coming up. But just for the sake of the event, and also just because I haven't gotten fully comfortable with the level 21 version of this fight, we'll go ahead and get to 22, because 22 has a strength boost, which makes this fight so much easier than without it. Oops, we're on Tron. After that minigame, we're going to equip Hero's Crest once again. Just for my sanity, I make sure Comet's preset going into this fight. The one time that I had already preset Comet, it did something funky for some unknown reason. Don't know what happened, but we ended up using Tron's limit, which we don't want to do in this upcoming fight. So the very start of this fight, we're going to quick run towards Hostile Program, which is the name of this boss. As we're quick running, we're going to activate Comet Rain, like so. Do an air combo, immediately go into Comet Rain, do an aerial spiral with an air combo, and then we're going to go into Master Form. Master Form has a unique property of draw, so going into Master Form allows us to immediately get the orbs that are all around that we need to freeze Hostile Program, and do a full air combo. Reflect into a full air combo just to make sure that we get enough damage. And once we get enough orbs, we freeze them again, and we're going to do full air combos while alternating Comet. Once we get down to the last bar of his health, we're just going to do Comet Rain into the end of the fight. The fight's still very doable on level 21, but you have to be very, very precise in every last little detail that you do, including after you freeze him a second time there. We're going to go ahead and equip Goofy Tornado. I actually almost forgot about that. So at the very start here, we're going to walk forward just slightly into a magnet. We're going to do a thunder, do another magnet, pop an ether after the magnet, into another magnet, thunder, finishing leap. And I meant to do Comet, I'm going to do a full Trinity here. I don't want to, but I was meaning to do Major Drive first, because everything beforehand, it's easier to recover your drive with Major Drive for smaller enemies like that than do Ultima. The Ultima is just an insurance to make sure that everything on that final wave would be taken out. And right at the very start here, we're going to summon Chicken Little, do 2 blizzards into a finishing leap. I'm going to position myself so that Chicken pulls them in. And just do a bunch of ground combos while doing finishing leap. There we go. And after we do the fire into the magnet, or the fire into finishing leap, we do magnet into Major Drive there. It wasn't 100% clean for the way I intended to have that done, but it'll work.
Dance, water, dance.
And so with Demix, we're actually fighting him now. We're going to go ahead and preset Trinity. We're going to get our count down to 32 forms before we go ahead into Trinity. At the start of the Trinity, we're going to do Ultima, kind of position ourselves back a little bit, and aim the Major Drive primarily towards Demix and his remaining clones for a very decent amount of damage there. Full ground combo into finishing leap, into Limit Form. Limit Form doesn't require party members to be alive, so you're able to do it whenever. That was a very good fight. That damage was incredible. That damage is what you want to see coming off that Ultima, or off the Trinity. Don't really need to pop those there, but we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. Yep, that's it. So we have Vicinity Break, which allows us to do an AoE spin on the ground. And we're going to do that with most of the enemies around us. We have Flash Type equipped as well, which is a better form of... quicker form of Slide Dash. And now we're fighting alongside Final Fantasy characters in this section. We have Yuffie, Leon, of course, Cloud, and Tifa. And we're going into limit form here, and limit form leveling works based on finishers with it. So you have to do finishers to the extent for the form. So in things like Sonic Ray, Infinity, Strike Raid, and Ars Arcanum, we have to do the full extent of the attack in order to get credit for a level point, in order to level up limit form. I'm hoping that's enough. That's just enough to get us to 4. Unfortunate. So we'll do Infinity here just because I didn't kill the shadows. Normally I would want to try and do the RC with the surveillance bots, but unfortunately wasn't really given much of a choice because I goofed up at the very start of the encounter with Cloud. But still, FF was pretty good, all things considered. And we're going to pick up our last AP boost chest. I'm going to go ahead and use that now. And we're going to throw... Jackpot back on Goofy, because even though Goofy's basically not going to be used for anything at this point, we still want to have that. So this fight, we're going to be using the Sparkle Ray as much as possible within this, and we're going to be manipulating the camera so that we can try and spawn in more Heartless that are in the background that are not actually on the field. This allows us to burn through the Heartless much faster to get us to the 1,000. And if a surveillance bot is caught spinning, we want to do Thunder on it, which allows us to immediately get the Sparkle Ray, or the grab into the Sparkle Ray RC, because we want to be doing this as much as possible through this entire thing, because it is the strongest move that we have for this fight. And even though this is on beginner, this fight can still end up with you dying. Just because you're by yourself, you have limited resources. And if you get enough surveillance bots that are doing that over there with the windup, it can quickly find you being very low on health. Something else to note too, the surveillance bots, you have to time a little bit on when you do the RC on the ground. Otherwise, if you just try and mash it out, then you end up with weird rotations on the Sparkle Ray. And you're not able to get nearly as much. So that was the end of HP 3. We won't be going back to Hollow Bastion anymore after this. Hollow Bastion is now officially done. for any percent. If we were doing all worlds, we would be visiting this again, but that would be a much more extended version of this run, as we'd have a bunch more worlds that we'd have to go to. So now it's the start of second visits. We're not going to talk to Beast immediately. We're going to actually go over to the parlor, and that's going to give us the transition back to this room. No, I'm not equipping anything. Just kidding. We do want to remove Beast from the party. At the very start here, I'm going to jump towards the Dragoons, target lock one of the Dragoons, and go straight into Ultima and into the finisher. Second visits, for the most part, are a little more under our control and to a script for the most part, as far as like what we're trying to do. We are going to be at least getting to a certain extent in this world before we move on. We're not actually going to complete Beast Castle on this go-around, simply because if we were to take on the boss for this world, we would not have the damage, let alone the abilities or anything else to actually be efficient in the fight. Plus, Beast, once we talk to him again to persuade, he gives us Rumbling Rose, which gives us a new Keyblade that has the functionality of Finishing Plus. And then we're going to quickly throw on Guard Break, and we're out of here. Because Port Royal is hiding a very big ability that is home to Donald, known as Duck Flare, which is the strongest, one of the strongest limit attacks in the game. And with Rumbling Rose, we now get a second finisher. So now we're along the basis of Crit without having the Finishing Plus ability. Crit would still have an extra Finishing Plus because they have Rumbling Rose on top of having the Finishing Plus ability that we don't have on Beginner. Oops. So our first fight here coming up is Reaper 1. We're going to do a full ground combo to a Blizzard. Followed by another Blizzard. And then for me, I do a full Blizzard after that until I have enough for one attack. And then oh, that's fortunate. I was too far away. Yeah, this is fine though. We'll make it work. We'll hopefully have him teleport, which doesn't look to be that case. Oh my gosh. He's just not going to teleport, apparently. Alright. Well, we're going to do a full Blizzard combo here into a full Arrow combo. I forgot the important Keyblade. Oh no, I knew I forgot something. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. I forgot to throw on Hero's Crest, which I knew I forgot. I should have remembered to throw that on after the fact. It's the first time actually in a while that I've forgotten to throw that on, so not surprised. It's alright. We'll make sure to get that on now. Then we're also going to throw on Horizontal Slash. Just for the sake of showing it off, I'm going to get my drive back up to 3. Okay. Just because I want to show it off, we'll do that. Normally I just power on ahead, but I want to make sure I can show this little cool trick off. So the third summon, by the way, that I picked up was Peter Pan. Like I said, we're only going to see him once in this run. We're going to go Magnet into Arcana to immediately take out the Gambler. And now we're going to go back to Isla de Muerta. We're going to skip these boat fights because now, since we're done with Hollow Bastion, all the enemies' health and attacks have been amplified. Oops. So it would take way too long for us to get through those fights on the boat ambush, so it's just quicker to do that. We're going to do a Magnet into a Guard Break. And the reason that the second finisher is possible now is because of Rumbling Rose. If we were on a crit, we'd be able to do it without having Rumbling Rose. Otherwise, if we didn't have Rumbling Rose on right now, we wouldn't be able to do a Magnet into a Guard Break because Magnet is considered a full finisher. So you can't combo anything else with it. And after the last Gambler here, we're going to pop an Ether to refill our MP. And we want to end all the Gamblers there with the summon still out because we do want to have our drive back to full. So at the very start here, we're going to do a Blizzard. And we don't need to have draw on. The medallions have a very good draw property to them. I'm gonna go ahead and fill my MP up a little bit. Okay, I feel better with that now. So I'm gonna go ahead and summon Genie or Peter Pan for this. Only doing one finisher. Peter Pan actually allows for us to stun lock the boss, so we're able to do full combo into sending him into his next phase. Once we hit the ground here, we're going to do 2 Thunders, which will drop the rest of the medallions. And now time for a really cool juggle here, known as the Comet Juggle. So while we're doing the horizontal slashes there, we're going to go ahead and just do... at the end of the horizontal slashes there, we go into another Comet, which continues the juggle. Power down towards the ground. Magnet into finishing leap. Try and take out all the rapid thrusters here. Wait for the sorcerers to attack. Do a reflect into. Oops. Reflect into a magnet into finishing leap. And I was cutting out a little closer with the sorcerer there. If that had gotten down to 0, I would have been frozen. But did just fine there. That was a pretty solid fight for the most part. So we're going to do these switches backwards. We're going to start with the Thunder Switch, which is all the way in the very back here. A small trick to get rid of all the enemies here is we go down and then back up so that it's easier to target block the Thunder Switch. And then we try and stay as high as possible until we get super close to the Blizzard Switch. If we do that, then we're able to stay away from spawning the adds in that would trigger if we were at a certain height. Then we're going to do one last little carpet mini game here, which is going to get us hopefully to level 30, if not super close, because we are a little bit further on XP than need be. Something that can happen too with 1K is depending on the enemies that spawn during the 1K fight can also determine how much XP you have coming out of Hollow Bastion third visit. So your XP can be a little bit skewed as far as where you're at. The more surveillance bots that you have that spawn during 1K, you're going to be walking out of HB3 with a bit more XP than normal, because the surveillance bots are worth a lot more XP than the armored knights. Oops, did that a little too soon. It's fine. We still have another fat bandit that we can take care of, and we're also still cruising on XP, so I'm not overly concerned about XP. The main thing was getting draw before we get to Halloween Town for a second time. But we have to delay taking out the sorcerers because they're the ones that will take out the fat bandits that are chilling on top of the buildings, and the fat bandits are worth like 300 something XP, so it's a pretty big chunk. That's fine. We're right there at level 30, so it's not that big of a deal. If I had been cutting it super close on XP, that would have been a big deal, having that, not only having the sorcerer despawn, but also having missed the other fat bandit earlier. And so now we're going to go ahead and leave Agrabah. We'll be back for that here in a little bit. And now with Donald, we're going to go ahead and get rid of Comet Rain and throw on Duck Flare. We're also going to go ahead and set Goofy to Sora attack now, because Goofy has served his purpose. And now we're on to the rest of our second visits, starting with Shock, Lock, and Barrel, once again causing problems. We're going to go ahead and magnet at the very start here and go into Major Drive, and then that's all that we have to do to get all three kids knocked out. Something to note is if Shock, which is the one with the witch's hat, if she were to run at the very start off to the left, she will not get pulled into the magnet. And there, I forgot to bring in Jack. That's okay. I can bring in after this.
Jack, am I on? Donald.
Cool. Yeah, if you were to, if you had Shock run on you at the very start to the far left, you actually have to do an extra portion of the Trinity in order to get all 3 children knocked out. So we have Jack back in the party because we're going to do dance call here. A more advanced thing that you could do is summon Genie. None of them took damage. That's okay. But the reason for draw is those ghost jack-o'-lanterns that spawn in, they have a bit of a super draw effect, so if they get anywhere close to those presents, it's going to be big time problems. So that's the big reason for having draw. Plus, while we're in dance call, draw will still take effect depending on what part of dance call you're in. So now, the mini game here with presents. We want to hope for as many of the bigger boxes as possible, as they are worth more. The red present boxes here are only worth 1 point each. The bigger ones, like this one, are the jackpot that you really want to get. That was pretty good. Shaka hadn't been in there for too long, so that was a pretty good present. Unfortunately, with Halloween Town, second visit, you can lose time or save a boatload of time based on presents, and there's nothing you can do about it. So now we're getting our first look at Donald's super mega attack now, called Duck Flare. Open up with that. Wait for Experiment to put himself back together. And we're going to not slide dash, we're going to quick run away from him. The way that Experiment works is the direction that the head gets thrown is based on the position. So if you're facing the back part of the original body, then you will go towards unfortunate. I couldn't get an aerial dive towards the body, but that's okay. But in order to get the body put back together quickly, you want to position yourself opposite of the original body that you're trying to get put back together. So now we're going to put on our next Keyblade that we just got from Halloween Town, called the Decisive Pumpkin. That Keyblade comes with its little perk called Combo Boost, which is going to help with this fight quite a lot. We're not going to be mashing X because we want to do slide dashes with Carpet and get as many hits before going into a finisher. Unfortunately, fortunately, a little too close to Jafar's head. You want to try and space yourself away from Jafar's head just enough so that you can get the actual air slide dash instead of flash step. That way you can do much more damage. And once we get down past his little health gate there, we do a couple full combos before doing the RC, because otherwise if Jafar recovers before we can actually do the RC, we're going to get DM'd at that point. The DM's not super scary on a beginner, it's just very time consuming. If you're not careful, however, it can get you killed, so it's better to avoid it altogether, which thankfully we're able to do, despite getting an early flash step, which we don't want to see as much. It's all about positioning. You just have to be just enough to where you're not getting flash step, because Carpet has its own built-in abilities, so it comes automatically with slide dash and flash step while on Carpet. And so that's why you can still do all those even if you don't have the abilities equipped. So now we're going to be finishing out Beast Castle here. I'm going to go towards the Dragoons, reflect, magnet into finishing leap. And we're going to give it a moment, do a full air combo. With a delayed start on the aerial spiral just to kind of hover back down. I'm going to bring him over here. There we go. That was a weird spawn. That was really weird. That should still work. It did not. Okay. Yeah, they spawned in really weird, so I don't know what happened there. Unfortunately, I think it might have been the lingering effect of a magnet, but I'm not 100% sure. And we go Valor form there for a strength boost while we're in Valor form against Zaldin. And we're going to try and build up as many of the learn as possible, which is the jump. Unfortunately, he's giving us kind of a weird pattern, so not much I can do but just try and position ourselves. To play it safe, I'm going to do 11 total jump attacks. And while we're in Valor form, because of the reaction boost ability, we do just that much more damage. And once we have done the full amount of the jumps, we revert out of Valor form, go straight into Duck Flare, and launch a Mega Flare as well because it will stagger Zaldin just long enough to where he won't DM us. Zaldin's DM isn't scary, it's more time consuming than anything to have happen. Plus, it can result with multiple DMs happening, which again ends up eating up a lot of time. So we're rounding up the last of our second visits here, paying a nice visit back to Milan. This world's got some pretty good tech within it, between movement and also strats for a lot of the fights within this world. So we're doing the full ground combo there. After the reflect, we go. After the guard break, we go into. After the guard break, we go into the reflect into Trinity, which, even if the mysterious figure, aka Riku, that I mean, we don't know it's Riku, but we know it's Riku. We go ahead and do the reflect into the Trinity, because even if he does move, the reflect into Trinity will carry over, much similar to what we saw with the Sorcerer back in Agrabah for that kind of tech. And if you like super mega kills, we're about to witness everything just get obliterated. So the very start here, we're just going to cast Magnet, and we're going to go straight into Ultima. And everything here is now dead. Oh, of course I say that, and then it's the one time it doesn't actually kill. 99% of the time, that is a full kill. So here, we're going to let the dust spawn in. We're going to do a vicinity break, reflect into magnet finishing leap. The snipers here are acting very weird. They normally don't act like that. They normally actually will retaliate and allow us to. It will allow us to follow through. It allows us to follow through with a reflect into the magnet finishing leap, but it's all good. So we're going to do one quick attack here. Do the grab, release, one attack into a finisher, into the second finisher, and we're just going to repeat that. And hopefully don't get hit. Because we did get hit again by the lightning, it's still a chance of it happening. We'll just simply grab back onto the big boy. He does not like me today. And then once he's down on the ground, we're going to go ahead and do Duck Flare into Mega Flare and be able to get the kill just in time. Was definitely cutting it a little bit close, but was able to get the job done. Again, the lightning getting hit by that, it's always a chance of it happening, so if it does happen, nothing you can do about it. It's just one of them things, unfortunately. So now we are on to the final stretch here. We are going to be paying a visit to Twilight Town for the third and final time. We see the final world that we're able to get to, which is the world that never was. However, the actual gateway to get there, we can't actually get access. We have to cut through Twilight Town in order to get to the final world. But hopefully everyone is enjoying the run. It is extremely nice to be able to showcase 2FM once again. And it's even sweeter to be able to represent the Cage community, you know, a few hours away from home. And it's my first in-person event ever too, so I'm definitely having a blast, and like I said, hopefully everyone's enjoying the run. And everything, and appreciate everybody for having me. And we do have another run coming up tomorrow, which is another very awesome run that you should definitely tune in for. It's the 1.5, 2.5 collection for super bosses, in which will be 26 super bosses in a gauntlet style rush. So we'll be beating them all back to back until we're done. So yeah, it's definitely an awesome run. And, yeah, like I said, hopefully everyone's enjoying. It's definitely been nice. But like I said, this is our final gummy mission as we start to get into the big time stuff within the game. As we can tell by the world around us for the gummy travel, everything's changed. The music's changed to a more like dramatic, you know, build up of things are really going down now. In which they are. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's about to happen, not only in fights, but also just in general. This gummy mission is still deemed kind of a dangerous gummy mission. For those that were wondering, it is still very possible to die. If you are very much not careful. It's, the way I go about this one, though, I have it all set up perfectly that even though you're going to hear the beeping of me being in danger, I'm not really in danger. I just set it up that way, so that way all the enemies that I take, all the ships that I take out, I get more HP orbs, so I can just kind of chill throughout this part and not have to really worry too much about anything. Because there's going to be these guys that are going to spawn in that are grabbers, which allows me to take, when I throw them, everything just gets taken out. So I usually just intentionally set myself up low low on health, so that way, again, I got nothing to fully worry about. And even though we got quick run, by the way, the skateboard in a couple of the sections through Twilight Town, it's much faster to just take that versus quick running, because it's more of a directional thing with Sora. You're not able to really change directions super quick until you actually land back down on the ground. So it's just easier to take the skateboard in a couple of the spots. And for one of the last times, we're going to be summoning Genie for this part. And at the very start here, we're going to jump towards the invisible barrier back here. Magnet into Arcana. Not doing a finisher. We're going to quick run over here. And we don't want to target lock, by the way, or even soft target any of the enemies. We want all of them to get dragged in from the Magnet Arcana. Once we get rid of the creepers there, we try and center ourselves a little bit more in the middle here for the samurais that spawn. And that was a pretty clean fight. So essentially, Twilight Town is pretty much done. We're going to be going through the portal, which puts us in between spaces, which is going to get us into the world that never was, that we couldn't access otherwise. So at the very start here, we're going to do a vicinity break. Then we're going to reflect, magnet, finishing leap, quickly do a fire into duck flare, into mega flare, and it'll quickly take out all the dusts there. It is a bit much to try and manually do quickly, so it does take a little bit of time to get used to. So Axel here, once again, it's a bit of RNG as to whether or not this ends up being a good fight. Depending on what Axel does, can kind of cause more harm than good. Once the assassins start spawning in, we're going to start doing reflex on the ground, because while they're just spawning in, it allows us to do the magnet into, or reflect into magnet, which gives us drive back and also takes out everything that spawns in there. And just for a little bit of flair and a quick finish, we do magnet trinity. So now, pretty much from this point on, it's going to be a bit of a boss rush. The first of which is going to be Roxas. We're going to open up with a Reflect, Blizzard, guard break into his second finisher here. And then we're just going to... I had my L1 held down. We're going to quickly redo this here, because it's a beautiful fight that I would definitely would want to show off real quick. Yeah, unfortunately I had my L1 held down there still.
Give me strength.
And then after the initial start, we're just going to thunder loop until we go into limit form.
Take that. This is it. Defense. Back off. Defense. Take this. Defense. Let's go. Yeah. This is it. Let's go. This is it. There. Yeah. This is it. Back off. Defense. Back off.
That's unfortunate. Gonna have to improvise it a little bit here. My input didn't come out for the continuation of my aerial spiral into the first finisher there, but that's okay.
Gather. Yeah.
And so now we're gonna go ahead and equip 2 becomes 1, which allows us to intentionally go into anti-form. Oh, vicinity break's still on, that's why. Okay. Which is going to intentionally allow us to go into anti-form, which we're going to be resetting our anti-points because now at this point we don't have the luxury of any forms. And for as much as we've been popping forms, we want to make sure we're not going to accidentally go into anti-form in a fight that we don't want to through this world.
Gather. Gather.
Oh, whoops.
Gather.
We're going to have to improvise that a little bit. There we go.
Let's go.
I didn't mean to jump into trying to do a magnet Ultima there. Yikes, ether count is a little tight here. I'm gonna sell whatever potions I have. It's not much. Okay, I should have enough. Because I can always, if I absolutely have to, I can always sell a few later on.
You really shouldn't have betrayed us.
Alright, so the first of the actual organization members in the rest of the world number was Zigbar. Once Zigbar is done attacking us, he's going to go and say R for reload, and we're going to launch Duck Flare and do a fun little combo here. And before the aerial finish there finishes, we launch the Duck Flare, which allows us to stagger Zigbar. And after that, we're going to go into Valor Farm here. Stagger Zigbar one more time. You have to make sure that he actually reloads, otherwise if you try and go too soon, you won't stagger him, and unfortunately it will result in you getting getting DM'd by him, and his whole entire attack pattern will change. That was pretty solid for the most part. I think I probably sent my Mega Flare a little early, but we were able to get just enough damage.
Let's go.
And we're gonna go ahead and take off aerial finish. I'm gonna read a quick draw just for the sake of it. So Luxor is gonna turn us into a die. We're gonna jump backwards at the very start here. It's fine. After he does a little card game, we're not going to actually do the card game. We're going to go ahead and do a combo that's reflect, attack reflect into a guard break, and then do an aerial spiral to try and continue that loop. He's too far away, that's fine.
It's over.
There we go. Whether or not Luxor decides to cooperate with you is complete RNG. Like, there's a certain amount that you can control, but if he just decides that he's going to be a pain, then he's going to decide that he's going to be a pain. This works out perfectly. As soon as I flip the card here that I need, go into Trinity, and then we're going to do an arse as soon as he lands with no finisher. Oh, I screwed up. I needed to do another arse. That's fine. The important thing is just not losing limit form here, which we should be fine. Yeah, we'll be fine, because the timer pauses there. So now we gotta play his little DM game, which I screwed up. I've been used to his data fight, which is the card stuff goes faster. I don't think we ended up using either, which is pretty good. We're going to be using a couple here, though. And once again, showing off with Duck Flare. Going to go into limit form right away. Do the full RC. And we're going to get close to Syax here. And we're going to guard, do a full combo into Zensasuken. Do a full combo again with Arse. Oops. This is going to be really interesting. That will be fine. So Magnet, casting Magnet causes Syax to retaliate automatically, which allows us to kind of keep him fully under our control, even though his Berserk meter is full. I was on the wrong side for my menu, so I was going to do Reflect, Slapshot Reflect into Duck Flare, which would have increased the amount of damage that we would have done going into the Duck Flare, but I was on the wrong side, so we didn't exactly get the Duck Flare. Okay, let's see. 6, 8. I'm gonna go ahead and sell Riku's potions actually, just to be safe. I should have enough ethers, but my ether count's a little lower than I would like. Oops. Which I can do that after this fight.
Give me strength.
Alright, so we're going to be doing a tower mechanic here with Zemnis. We're just going to go past him. And then we're going to do the full finish there. We're not going to mash out triangle because if we do the third RC version, we actually get to do decent damage to Zemnis here. And this whole entire fight, we're just going to be doing reflect, slapshot, reflect, except my L1 held down, which is a bummer. So I'm going to have to kind of go a little bit harder here on ether count. Yeah, this is a bummer, but that's okay. I think we only ended up using one ether, which is what we would normally use in this fight anyway, so it just came at a much scarier time than I would have liked to use the ether. Still pretty clean fight despite what happened, but yeah, it unfortunately happens every now and then where my L1 just, no matter what, will stick just long enough that an ether will come out instead of a slap shot. I'm gonna backtrack real quick to get one extra ether, just to be safe before we go into final fights. Oh, never mind. Don't have enough. I forgot it's 120, not 100. Oh well. We'll make do. We have 7. We should have enough. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I've got enough. Alright, so now we are in the final home stretch for final fights. We're going to have a mob fight, we're going to have some individual fights, and it's going to be, hopefully, a good showing. So right off the bat here, we're going to go ahead and use Magnet, and we're going to get Donald back in the mix. And we're just going to be using Magnet throughout this first part because these guys only need Magnet to send them off. And at that point, we only have to do a couple more to actually get into the reaction there. Then we're going to go into Master Form and use Magnet, and that's all that we got to do, because Magnet in Master Form is much stronger than Base Form. It lingers around a pretty solid amount of time. So we're going to cast Magnet, and we're going to revert. And we're going to do Ultima after the major drive there to get our drive back and also take out most of the ads that were within the Trinity. Unfortunately, we have an assassin that is straggling underground somehow. So that happened. But on the bright side, we only have to use one ether now. There we go. Gonna intentionally get knocked away by the Berserker's sword there and do a full Arcana. We're gonna fall a little bit, go Magnet into another Arcana. And then we're gonna go ahead and dismiss Genie. And then we're going to go into Valor form here.
It's over.
And at the very start here, we're going to do a full combo. We're going to try and delay the first finisher.
It's over.
So that way the spears are slamming down at the same time as that.
Yeah. Back off.
Oh,
Yeah. Back off.
there we go. This pattern was a little off there, but we were able to still have a pretty solid fight. Now we've got Dragon Zemnis, aka Blue Eyes, as people within the community like to meme. And as soon as we get the laser on this first part, we're going to go ahead and use it. There is a way to ultimately have Sora infinitely do a finisher. So when we do the drain with Riku, we're able to just constantly do a finisher well past our finisher limit. Doing that when the enemies spawn in allows us to be able to constantly knock all the enemies immediately away, because it's all based on knockback instead of their actual health there. So it just speeds up this portion that much quicker. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and use the laser. If you time the laser on the third sequence in a good spot, you can actually get rid of that limb pretty much immediately. Nope, I thought we got the last part. There we go. Alright. And that is Dragon Zemnis right there. We got two more fights. We have Armored Zemnis once again, and then we'll have Final Zemnis. We're gonna be using Reflect a lot through this this fight. Reflect, Slapshot, Reflect in the guard break. And something kind of fun to point out, we have intricately in this fight aerial dodge, glide of course, and dodge roll, all of which we don't have on base Sora in a normal situation. Oh, I thought I hit the threshold there, so I let up. The second building is a little tougher to get immediately. The buildings spawn always in the same spots. The buildings that get thrown at you, however, sometimes vary a little bit, but everything else is the same. He's gonna throw up his barrier again. And pop an E through to top off before we go into final Zemnis here. So at the very start, we're going to reflect, and we're going to do the RC alongside him. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to be slightly under damage, but that's okay. We'll make it work. I miscounted which one I needed to actually do the full RC on. So we gotta make up damage a little bit here. That's unfortunate. That's fine. Gives us a chance to do this better.
And hate are supreme.
That's fine. And on crit, that little explosion attack that he does would kill you. So it's a very unfortunate attack if that happens to you on crit. Almost had it happen again, because so we're going to do the full combo into Zetsuken, into full Arse without I'm not going to have enough MP to do the full thing, but so I'm going to intentionally not continue on with the attack, just because it'd be very bad, especially if he did, can you spare a heart? Alright. He's gonna get through the laser dome now, which is just mashing X and triangle, and time will be coming up here pretty soon. Depending on if my X button will actually decide to cooperate with me. We'll definitely be just slightly over, but that's okay. There was a lot of things that did not go exactly our way, but we definitely did the best with what we we could. Like I said, I hope everyone definitely enjoyed the run. And as soon as I get control of Sora again, once we land the final blow on Zemnis, that will be time. And time.
Epic.
Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely a few things that didn't go good, but hey, did the best with what we got thrown at us, and it was definitely a heck of a run. And like I said, hopefully everyone enjoyed. It was definitely awesome being able to showcase 2FM, which got me into speedrunning initially, and being able to show it off, a few hours away from home in person is definitely even more of an honor. Being able to represent the cage community and.
About how long is the final cutscene? 'Cause I'm not wondering if we play it out or not. But if it's like overly long, I don't know if we should.
It's overly long because
Okay, all right. Let's just keep it at that. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, because there's unfortunately this is the only cutscene that we cannot like all of these cutscenes after the final
yeah,
fight.
we probably just shut the PS4 off, huh?
Yeah, pretty much like once that's it. For us, we just close the app, and if we're doing more runs and we fire it back up, otherwise, yeah, that's.
I hear you. All right. Any shout outs you want to give? Anything specific you want to do while you got the time here? While you got the time of day?
Well, since we are slightly ahead, still on schedule, I can buy us a little time.
Well, we got to do a lot of setup for the next run. Is the thing.
Oh, right.
It's that 4-player run.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
But you still got a few minutes if you want to just like say whatever.
Yeah. We'll do that. Just want to give a huge shout out to the entire cage community, and definitely everything that we've all been doing as a whole. Yesterday, actually, a couple 1FM runners got a show off in GDQ, which was pretty awesome to see. 2 top runners doing all that, so it's definitely awesome seeing everyone that's working hard on cage, whether it's 1FM, 2FM, Cage 3, just any of the cage games in general. If folks want to catch more of my runs, they can find me on Twitch, ibaallday, one word. I do pretty much. I've done every single cage game. We actually did a series run last year in one go, which was a lot of fun. Learning every single cage game within the span of like 2 weeks before I decided to do the run. So, yeah, just huge props to everyone within the community for everything that's been found, stuff that's still being found, being worked hard on. And yeah, that's going to be it for me for at least today. And then tomorrow we'll be back with a Super Boss gauntlet rush of every Super Boss within the 1.5, 2.5 collection. So it's going to be a blast.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Adios.